It's live, not Memorex. And live from Golden Valley, it's MNISPI.
Do we know how many people are on?
I'm gonna check it out.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, everybody who's here. We have about 8 people, 9 people in the room so far, 10, I guess, and a few online. We anticipate there will be more joining, but this is being recorded, so anybody who misses part of it can pick it up later on. If you have to take a bio break or anything like that, just feel free, and when you can listen to the rest of it, what you missed later on. All right. My name is John Klinger, and I am the chapter president. This is our second general meeting of the year, and we're really glad to have our first online audience. So I am going to, okay, those of you who aren't here, you missed out on the food. It was great. It was steak and baked potato and tremendous desserts. So for those of you who are here, please put your phones on stun, and the restrooms are located down the hall. Just turn right out of the Snelling room. Oh yeah, okay, right.
Speaking of the Snelling room, we probably forget next month, November, our room has been, we have to move. We're not going to be in Snelling this year, and I can send you an email. But we're going to be across that Skyway in the Lavender room.
Okay.
It kind of overlooks Lavender Avenue.
Okay.
So,
little ambiance.
So it's like, yeah, so you would enter that door right under the Skyway, like we used to do years ago for those lunch rooms. There's members like I have. Enter that door under the Skyway, take the Skyway across to Lavender. It's where we have had our national speaker events.
Okay.
So do we go in the same entrance or no?
No, you go, I mean, you can certainly walk through the building.
We'll put it on the website.
We'll put it on the website, yeah. So,
I want to encourage all of you to speak up loud and clear. Stand up if you need to. That really helps a lot in getting the volume up to the computer.
where's the speaker then? In the computer?
The computer.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe you can repeat
You can move it
whatever.
up too
Okay.
if you want.
The point was made by Sue Merkins that we'll be in a different room at Ties next month for our monthly meeting, but that information will all be on the e-blast and on the website. And so if you're listening in, you'll have another opportunity to find out exactly where it's going to be. ISPI and our Minnesota chapter are dedicated to improving human performance through human performance technology, instructional design, learning and development, process improvement, and quality improvement. We want to encourage visitors, whether you're listening online or in our meeting today, to consider joining us with a regular membership, or if you're a student membership. The regular membership is $50 a year. The student rate is $25 a year. And a new benefit of being a member of MNISPI going forward is going to be that you'll be able to attend these meetings virtually. If you can't make it, or you get whatever the reason might be, Not only that, but you'll be able to listen to them record the recordings later on. We also have a national speaker event, and we have several special interest groups, Book Banner, Consulting, and Digital Learning Forum, or DLF. All right, so here's the, this is our board of directors. Let's see. Uh-oh. It was our board of directors.
Yeah, you're there.
You're there, John.
But I want to scroll down, so
Oh,
I need to scroll down.
there's your mouse. There you
Here we go.
Okay.
So I'm the chapter president. Our past president and now treasurer is Sue Merkins. We have an opening for a president-elect if somebody is interested in serving as president-elect and then stepping up to be president the next year. We have a liaison, a new position. It's a liaison with the International Society, and that one is open right now. Our membership chairman is Sherry Stern. Our programs coordinator is Mila Sanchez. Internal communications is Emily Carlson. And external communications is Kristen Sue. Our website coordinators are Arnold Gamboa and Rich Makela. I mentioned these special interest groups, the three of them, and those leaders are Rich Janicek for the book banter, Steve Sorensen for the consultant SIG, and Bob Mulcahy for the digital learning forum SIG. Okay, so this is a little bit more about the special interest groups. Under MNISPI, we have the book banter SIG, the consulting SIG, and the digital learning forum SIG.
All of which meet once a month.
All of which meet once a month at different locations, which are on the screen now. The book banner SIG, the next meeting will be Monday, November 3rd, from 5:30 to 8 at the Rockford Road Library in Crystal. The consultant SIG meeting, the next one will be Monday, November 10th, from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. at the Highland Cafe and Bakery at 2012 Ford Parkway in St. Paul. And the coordinators' email addresses are on the screen in case you need to contact them.
What's the current book?
I have no,
The author, I think, is Daniel Pink.
Daniel Pink.
Something about line extension, something. I got it on order from the library.
It's a hot seller, I'm sure. So you'll want to run to Amazon or Barnes and Noble and pick it up. The third career enhancement SIG is Digital Learning Forum, or DLF. It's held, the next one will be Monday, November 10th from 6 to 8 at the University of St. Thomas, which is at 2115 Summit Avenue, St. Paul. It's room 117 in McNeely Hall.
then there's parking on the street or parking down below the building in the ramp.
Right, there's parking on the street, or there's very inexpensive parking in a ramp next to the building. So these SIGs are free to everyone, whether you're a member or not. And I enjoy attending them. It's a great way to network and get to know some of your associates. And I go to the DLF forum a lot, and it's really, they're taking a hard look at the technology behind instructional design and performance improvement.
Our next topic is going to be on videos.
The next topic of the DLF is going to be on videos.
Yep.
Thank you, Sue.
And I have the schedules back here if anybody wants them.
And you're out of luck if you're online, but you'll find it in the e-blast and at the website.
Yeah, or go to the website. Yep.
There are several other organizations in the Twin Cities and Minnesota for career enhancement. The first one, and the best known probably, yet the least known since they changed their name, is ATD, the Association for Talent Development. This was ASTD, and their website, if you still go to astd-tcc.org, I suspect you'll be directed to the new website if they have it. PEN, the Performance Enhancing Network, in Performance Excellence Network. Sue, take that note. Thank you, Sue. Sue's my editor. So the Performance Excellence Network is located, covers an area including Minnesota and the Dakotas. And of course, there it is right in the web address, Performance Excellence Network. Thanks to Rich for pointing that out. The third one is PACT, or the Professional Association for Computer Training. It's a Twin Cities-based organization, and the web address for that is pactweb.org. So now that we've sold you on becoming a member, if you are new to us, there are a couple of ways you can do it. You can come to a meeting and write a check, and we also can you can use a major credit card on our secure website, which is MNISPI.org. The credit card is actually through PayPal. The contacts are Sue Merkins or Sherry Stern, and you can send an email to membership@MNISPI.org. All right, for those of us who are now, will they be able to introduce themselves to us and have us hear it? Arnold, for the people who are online, can they introduce themselves to us?
No. Essentially, I just broadcasting.
Okay, it's a one-way ticket here. So
they can watch the video later. If they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you see?
That is a picture I'm working on.
Oh, okay.
Find
Okay,
it.
sorry.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking of Adobe Connect where you can see the
You're
audience.
ahead of the future. But we are going there.
So Arnold is masterminding this effort through Google Hangout, and So several other people were influential in finding a tool
Yeah,
that we can use.
because we have members or even potential members that are located in Rochester and Duluth and
St. Cloud
St.
and
Cloud and Timbuktu, and so it's nice to give them that option.
yeah.
It's something we've talked about actually for the last couple of years, but we've never really operationalized it now.
So St. Cloud.
We're gonna do this every month or just certain-
So whether you live in St. Cloud or Rochester or the Twin Cities, or as Sue said, Timbuktu, you can, we'd love to have you here, but of course, if you can't every month, we'd like you to tune in on our website. So we're going to begin with introductions of the people who are in this room. I'd like everybody to tell us your name, where you live, your company name, and what you do there. And if you're not working, what kind of work do you like or are you seeking? And if you could just take a moment to tell us some of your skills, even outside of performance improvement, that distinguish you from other job candidates. And finally, tell us something you enjoy when you're not working. So let's start with Susan Taylor. And like I'll emphasize again, if you'd stand up, I think your voice will carry much better and they'll be able to hear us.
Okay. My name is Susan Taylor.
Shoot.
The front, okay.
Yeah, face the front. That's another requirement.
And my company name is SST Enterprises Incorporated, and I do consulting work in instructional design and development, e-learning, performance improvement, sorts of things. I've been working on a long-term contract with Competence Education and Research Council, developing actually some instructor-based training now, but they always converted it to e-learning, so that'll come someday. What would distinguish me? That was the next one. I've been in this field probably longer than anybody in this room. And worked on one of the very first e-learning projects ever in the world. So that was, it's been interesting to see the evolution over the years and the computer technology and the operating tools and all that sort of thing. What I enjoy doing when I'm not working, I like walking, reading, craft types of things. Playing bridge.
I'm Tom Martin. I'm an instructional designer. I heard voice. Okay. I'm an instructional designer, LMS administrator. Let's see. I just finished up a project. I work contract, so I'm in between. I just like working on different types of instructional development. I've done just about every type of instruction development that you can. Worked on satellite teleconferencing, just about everything that you can think of. Let's see. Something I enjoy when I'm not working, I like to do lapidary work and make jewelry.
And I'm noticing that the time is it's like 6:40, so feel free to abbreviate your remarks if you want. Just give us make sure we learn the important stuff.
Rich Makela, Bloomington, Minnesota, Makela Performance Incorporated, works with manufacturing and processing and paper mills and refineries and chemical plants and all kinds of places you don't want to live next to it. And my degree is in engineering. Uh, when not working, I love to sail. Rest in peace. Couple other things.
I'm Alan Carpenter. I'm an independent instructional designer and technical writer. We're currently working on a contract at All University, put academic courses online, primarily marriage and family therapy courses right now. So one of the good things about this business is you learn a lot about a lot of good things.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm not working. I'm a large dog, so I spend a lot of time walking my dog. I started out in technical writing, so I have a thorough background in technical writing. My academic training is in mathematics, of all things. That's it.
I'm Sue Merkins, past president, current treasurer of the chapter. I just finished, as of yesterday, the Eco Lab project that I've been working on the last few months. And just in time, just literally a couple weeks ago, started working at Medtronic again on a 6-month contract. So back in my old stomping grounds, it's kind of weird because I've been gone for 7 years. I used to work for them full time, but also as a contractor. So every day I'm running into people I used to work with that are a little older, a little grayer, and like, wow, it's like going back in time, sort of, you know. But anyway, I have a background in teaching, so complements performance improvement quite nicely, and it helps me develop courses that are, you know, effective from a training standpoint, because I've done stand-up training, and enjoy golf.
I'm Neela Sanchez. I am from St. Paul, and I work in St. Paul at Goodwill Easter Steel. We're currently doing a lot of exciting manager supervisor training. So that just started a couple months ago, and that'll be going on pretty much the rest of the year. And outside of work, I like to, well, usually I like to do like water sport type things, but now it's getting cold, so I guess I'll stay. I like to go for a walk. Sue.
Face this way, please, Kristen.
Oh, okay. Alrighty.
Shout into the
All right.
computer.
Kristen Sue. Is this okay?
I think so.
All right. You might know my name from the e-blasts that are sent out. If you have any feedback on the e-blasts, just let me know. We were just talking before. If they're coming out small or if the format is looking not quite right, let me know. Because we want to make sure that those look good and that they're, you know, acceptable for everybody. I am in the midst of a big transition. I've had a couple of careers in the past in teaching and pharmaceutical sales, and I'm going into instructional design. Just finished up instructional design school. I'm kind of calling this my second year of school, just kind of getting to know the community and, you know, what's out there, and trying to hold on to my kids' you know, younger years as long as I can until they're, well, my youngest one moves together in a couple years. So, yeah, so I'm interested in contracts and, you know, small projects. I like bike rides.
My name is Ann Brett. I live in St. Cloud. St. Cloud is represented.
Yeah.
I don't have a company at the moment. I'm in transition. I've applied for a couple of jobs, one at Shell Energy, one at a company called Evolution One. When I'm not doing instructional design, I've done e-learning, instructor-led training, like directing plays, and acting. Yeah, that's what I like to do when I'm not working.
Okay, my name is Arnold Gamboa. I live in Minneapolis.
I don't have a company. I work for one. I work for Cummins Power Generation Village. I'm the instructional designer there. And I'm essentially working in e-learning projects, converting all those paper-based training projects into e-learning. That's what I do there. And I like riding my bike to work or to home or places.
Wow,
That's what I do. Yeah.
that's good.
I'm Sherry Stern, and so welcome. This is Manufacturers Alliance, and this is where I work. So it's nice to have you on this side of the business.
Thanks for hosting us.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. Appreciate it from my company. And also, I just want to recognize two people that are with us online, and that is Lynn Underall and Kira Thrasher, who said they would help us with testing out our system today. So I want to thank them. And about under 400 manufacturing companies, and it's mainly peer-to-peer training. So I'm the training and development coordinator for them. And I am right now working on a project which is to develop a supervision series certification that will be for supervisors in manufacturing or managers or leads, that kind of thing. So with some project work involved so that it's more meaningful to them and they apply it. And then one thing I am working on, which is fun, which is with Kira, who's online with us, is that we are volunteering with the Wildlife Science Center, which is up in Forest Lake area, and they have lots of different wildlife. And we're going to design their first e-learning about wolves. If you've never been up to that center, go on a Saturday morning. It's really fascinating, especially if you have kids. And eventually you'll see it. We're just going to start to work on it. But that will be very fun. Yeah, I learned. So maybe they'll go, woo, and they learn it, right? Instead of aha. Wow. Anyway, that's me.
Hi, I'm Emily Carlson. I work for the USDA in HR, and I am a training lead in my unit. I am 2 years into an instructional design program at Boise State U, which is a great program. I recommend it if you are working in your master's or if you want to get your master's. You don't have to transfer, but it's a good program. So yeah, I do training and don't really do e-learning where I'm at, but we can transition to that. And there's definitely a lot of paper stuff that I could probably work with at my work. So when I have time, I'll see what I can do.
And we have one person who just walked in, and we're going to put them on the spot right away. Just if you'll briefly introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, that'd be great.
My name is Dr. Tom Stover. I'm the president and CEO of True North Compass. We're a startup company. We do a lot of business consulting. We do a lot of stuff in the academic world right now. Also, we do telepresence and teaching college over the internet.
Great.
Sherry invited me 2 weeks ago to their office. So thank you for inviting me.
And I'll keep mine brief. I'm John Klinger, and I'm an instructional designer. I have specialized for the last 18 years in ERP systems such as SAP and Oracle. I'm just getting ready to start a new project which will be outside of that realm. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to jinx it. I haven't started yet. It's supposed to start Monday. And this is a great time of the year for me. College football and Major League Baseball. Can it get any better than that? All right. Just quickly, if anybody has a job need or a job lead, here's your chance. I will mention that I was contacted almost a month ago by a guy named Jim Rich, who is an Potomac chapter, and he said there might be an opportunity for an instructional designer in Minnesota to work with, I think it's a Minnesota client. So the information is there if you want to reach out to him. Does anybody else have a need or a
I think so.
Yeah, nice guy, so anyway.
Okay, good. Glad to hear it.
It's not like a recruiter person.
All right, moving on.
Or did anyone else know? No?
We do still have, I brought this one up last month, but we do still have an opening at Goodwill Teachers Deals for a learning and talent development business partner. So if you're interested, check out the website. You might have to do a little search to kind of narrow it down, but it is, no, it's a permanent position. But they're looking for a specific skill.
All righty. So something really exciting has happened in the last month or so. We were donated a license for Articulate Storyline 2, and we want to use that tool to, number one, learn it ourselves and perhaps develop some e-learning for nonprofit organizations. And we've got some, we have to figure out some things like we'll need a laptop so that we can put the one license on. So if anybody has one that they'd like to donate, please let us know. And there's going to be a SIG sponsored by the Association for Training Development. Is that what it means? Is that what it is now? Well, it used to be ASTD. They're sponsoring a free SIG called Articulate Storyline 2 Revealed and Reviewed. And that's going to be a week from tomorrow, Wednesday from 6 to 7:30 at the Edina Public Library, and that's free. So I'd like to encourage as many people as possible from our group to attend. Give us a little bit of a kickstart to Storyline 2, and then we need to put our heads together and come up with dates and times for a meeting on that. Do we want to talk about that right now, or?
Yeah.
Okay, just a couple of minutes.
I would be interested, who's interested to be in it, so we know, I am interested in anyone else. Emily, Kristen,
Tom, Emily, Kristen, Amila, me. So we're thinking that, well, the SIGs happen in the first 2 weeks of the month, and the general meeting is usually like the third week of the month. And we have our board meeting the week after that. Sherry and I talked about it, and it made sense to us to try to do something in those first 2 weeks of the month, maybe even the first week of the month. And we're available Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Sherry and I are. Does anybody want to propose a time when we might meet? Let's do that. Let's try to do it the first week of the month in November, just to get started. And if we need to come up with a different time, we'll do that. So does Tuesday work for everybody? Okay. Does Wednesday work for everybody? So it works for you, Sherry? Okay.
Thursday?
So
Would it be an evening meeting then?
it would have to be an evening meeting, I think. How about Thursday? I think doesn't work for one or two people.
Everybody, it works Thursday.
Oh, it does. Okay. So
First Thursday.
we'll do it the first Thursday of November, whatever date that is. And if you're online and you want to come, we still need to come up with a time and place. So maybe you could email membership@MNISPI.org or president@MNISPI.org, and we'll get back to you with what we decided, and hopefully you'll be able to attend as well.
And speaking of AST or ATD, they're having their conference right now. I don't know if you know that, but it started today. It was all day today, and it's all day tomorrow as well. And I suppose you could just go to their website, but I am currently working with Gabriella Rode. You may or may not know. But anyway, she's the past president of ATD, and she said you can literally just walk in and register on site. So you don't have to pre-register anything. You just show up.
And I believe it's being held in downtown St. Paul at the convention center.
Yep. So anyway, I told her I was going to mention it.
All right. So the ATD chapter or national? Local chapter conference is going on at the convention center in downtown St. Paul. It will start today and will continue tomorrow. Real quickly, tonight we're in Golden Valley, thanks to Sherry. Next month we'll be back at the Ties Building, which is at the corner of Snelling and Larpenteur in St. Paul. And you can watch for details at MNISPI.org or the e-blast. I mentioned briefly that we are now able to attend virtually or listen to the or view the meeting afterwards through Google Hangouts. Oh, I guess there's no video, right? Just audio.
There's video.
Oh, there's video screencast, but fortunately not of us.
Next time.
And the big thing there is that we can only take 10, so hurry up and sign up.
And will those recordings be posted on our website or
On our
distributed?
channel, on our YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
And the YouTube channel will have a link from the website. Okay, so it's going to be on YouTube. There'll be a link on our website. And then I was asked to mention briefly that the University of St. Thomas has started a master's program in learning, performance, and technology. And if you're interested in that, you can contact Emma Dong, and her email address is on the screen.
I think it's starting in February, so it hasn't started up yet.
Kristen thinks it starts in February, so you got time, but don't put it off, like me. All right, and now we come to our presentation, which is going to be by Rich Makela of Makela Performance on finding the shortest routes to competence. And I'm going to sign off by saying that we'd like you to be back next month on Tuesday, November 18th. And you can see our website for details. Brings to mind a radio announcer in Bakersfield when I was growing up. He always ended everything with, "Y'all come." So with that, I'll turn it over to Rich.
This is a presentation that I did 5 years ago, and we're going to do it again. And it's the title is Finding the Shortest Routes to Competence. And I want to emphasize the word competence here because it's results we're looking for.
Do you have a handout, Rich?
No.
Okay.
I will have for an exercise shortly, but that's coming. Okay. So we start off when performance is inadequate. Well, one of my very favorite quotes is Dr. Bob Mager. Mager has got a great sense of humor, and so in order to figure out what you're going to do, one of the key questions is, if you held a gun to their head, could they do it? And if the answer is yes, then the problem probably is not skills or talents. It's somewhere in the organization. There are obstacles up there in the first 3 boxes of the 6 boxes that are getting in the way of people doing what they already know they should do and how to do it. But we're going to deal with, what do we do when the answer is some form of no, or not sure, or not always, or at any rate, where performance support of some sort is in order to enable people to do the jobs that they're trying to do. Now, the shortest route to competence is going to have some characteristics. First of all, whatever we do has to be most likely to produce the desired result every time. Result. Should have the lowest overall cost to create and deliver, whatever it is. It should be available when needed by the individual, not only when, but when and where needed by the individual performer. And it should be sustainable given the resources available within the organization for which the folks work. Okay, well, now there are what we're going to deal with a lot here is questions. And to begin with, it's important to understand, who are we talking about? Who are the performers that need to improve? For what results are they responsible? If we don't have a good handle on the results, then it's kind of like, if you don't know what the target is, pretty much anything will do, and we don't want to go there. And what does success look like? How do we actually define in clear terms that everybody can understand what successful performance actually looks like? How do we measure it? How do we know whether we're there, whether we're getting closer, etc.? Well, I have, over the God knows how many years I've been doing this, have kind of come to what I have found to be a very useful definition of what we do at work. And pretty much everything I've ever had to face could be stated somewhere in this realm. We're either performing tasks, solving problems, or making decisions, or combinations of those things. Just about everything we do, whether it's the CEO or the janitor, you can define what they do in those terms somehow. And so I've just thrown out some examples here, and we will use these later. But and they're quite varied. Enter data about a patient in the medical records database, okay, and should have said correctly. Connect a new customer to the SL service in a remote outdoor termination cabinet, something I have written instructions for. Conduct interviews to decide which of several applicants to hire for an instructional designer position. Start up a production line to make a breakfast cereal. I wrote instructions for that too. Respond to a high steam pressure alarm in a gas-fired boiler. Getting a little more serious. Land a twin-engine jetliner with one failed engine on windy conditions without harm to passengers. If you were one of the passengers, you would want to, darn sure the pilot would not do that. Okay. Well, if we're faced with the need to improve performance on these things, what are we going to do? How are we going to go about this? Are we going to conduct classroom training or on-the-job training, or under what conditions? Some kind of job aid, electronic support systems, coaching, periodic drill. What are we going to do? Well, and in fact, how do we decide? That's what this is going to be about. How we decide on the most likely to succeed performance improvement strategy. And in order to do that, we have to clearly understand the task that the performer has to perform. And when I say understand it, well, what do I mean? Okay, here are some key questions. First of all, how frequently does the individual perform the task? How complex is the task? And that begs a whole bunch of other questions, and we'll get to those. And what's the impact or the risk associated with the task? These first three I got from a presentation by RWD Technologies that John used to work for at the ASTD Tech Skills Conference in 1995. And RWD did lots of work in refineries and chemical plants and all kinds of places that can blow up and kill people. I've added a fourth one, just because my experience says I have to keep taking this into account. What are the constraints on the delivery of help at the time that it's needed? Because what we would like to do, we may not always be able to do. Okay, well, let's break each of these down now and look at how we actually define them. And this is not some concise, complete list of questions. This is just examples of the kinds of questions that are helpful in order to get closer to details that you can actually work with and make decisions about. First of all, who's the audience? Who are these performers? And what's their experience? Who are we dealing with here? How often when will an individual perform the task? Will they do it often enough to be proficient, to become proficient? How likely are they to remember it from one time to the next? And is it the same for all members of the audience? Example, procedure for shutting down a production line and starting it up with a new product. Got a plant that runs 3 shifts. Usually they do that on the day shift. But sometimes they have to do it on the 4 to midnight shift. So it means that the people that work on the day shift may do it frequently. The people who work on the night shift may do it only once in a blue moon. And so you may not have one audience. You might have 2. Those that do it frequently, those that do it infrequently. Complexity. This gets really, okay, incidentally, I usually try to to not get too, frequency, I just deal with high or low. I don't try to get too, I don't try to split it down any more than is useful. I have found high and low pretty much to be all I could deal with. Complexity. Generally, and it's going to vary with the task and the situation, but generally, I've generally used high, medium, and low is about as all my brain can handle. And some of the questions that one might ask: how many steps in a procedure? What kinds of decisions are required? Are they choices between two alternatives? Are they choices between, some larger number of known alternatives? Or are they the kind of decisions where you got to scratch your head and do some research and figure it out? Those are a lot tougher. What's the clarity of criteria for decision making? What's the level of judgment required? Is there, to what degree does the performer have to evaluate results of what's going on in order to make the decisions? What's the clarity of feedback from the process itself? We got a real good example of that that's been all over the news recently, which I will allude to later. Next, impact. And there's a couple of pieces of this: the nature of the impact and the magnitude of the impact. So the nature, the nature of the risk? Is it productivity, loss of productivity? Is it damage to equipment? Is it have to do with the risk for quality of the product or service? Is it a risk to safety of personnel? Is it two or three or all of the above? And then what's the magnitude? Is it small? Is it medium? Is it big? Constraints, the kinds of things I've run into generally are time constraints. How is it, you might think, well, if we can provide electronic performance support system to the individual so that when they confront the task, they can go. But what if all hell breaks loose real quickly and they don't have time to go look at that? Physical constraints. Is there a place to put a job aid? When you're dealing in manufacturing and processes and stuff that goes on outdoors and all that kind of stuff, sometimes there isn't. Is weather a factor if it's an outdoor thing? Does the performer have access to a phone or a PC or the internet where performance support might be delivered? If they don't have access to it, doesn't do any good to put it there. Two hands are if you say, well, we'll give you a manual and you can look it up, except two hands are required for the task, so I don't have anything left to turn the pages with. Process constraints. This is kind of the really annoying ones. Are there legal or regulatory requirements that either require you to do certain things that may not necessarily be helpful, but you have to do them anyway, or that limit you from doing things that would actually help a lot if you could do them, but you can't because of the lawyers. Also, looking at the process, is it worth a look to see if the process can actually be modified in order to make the task easier? Oftentimes that's the case. So it pays to look there before you get going too far too much farther down this line.
Then the all popular financial constraints. You know, well, we'd love to do, you know, high-end simulation, blah, 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 but we don't have the money.
I don't have that on my list. And the reason I don't have it on my list is because this is about task analysis. I would place financial constraints somewhere much farther down the line. In other words, I don't want to have to take into account financial constraints before I've even identified what the best strategy would be. I want to identify the best strategy first, then we'll take a look at the financial end of it. Because oftentimes, once you have, if in fact you have identified a strategy that's very likely to work, and the risk of screwing up is significant, once people see, you know, this is really quite likely to work, those financial constraints can go away quickly because they realize, ooh, we can spend $100,000 and save $1 million. That's not so bad. We'll find the 100,000. We not have it now, but by God, we're going to find it somewhere. So I would, you know, I'd put that out there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to come up eventually, but it's not part of task analysis.
Okay, good.
Yeah. The two hands. There was a great article 20 years ago in Training Magazine about the U.S. Air Force had developed a system for aircraft mechanics who work on all kinds of different planes and doing all kinds of, I mean, it may be, you know, they may be running into a particular thing once in 3 months, but they got, you know, 500 things. They came up with an electronic performance support system, computer that hung on the belt, a screen about like a small iPad or the big Apple iPhone or something that mounted on the mechanic's wrist so that he could be watching a video or something or you know, he could have an online performance support system. Got two hands for the task and we can look on his wrist. Really cool. This is like 20 years ago. Okay, we're going to do an exercise. Well, first of all, let's just say it. Are there any questions or comments about those task analysis, those 4 items before we get into the exercise? Okay, what I'm going to ask you to do is to break up in groups of, let's say, 2 or 3. No more than that. And what you're going to do is analyze, and I have little worksheets for you. So, and it lists the tasks. Analyze those tasks according to frequency, complexity, impact, and constraints. And then select what you would consider to be the best performance support solution, or perhaps combination of solutions for that task. Time to collect the thoughts here. And I think what I will do is we'll kind of go around. We'll have each group take one of the examples and go through your analysis and give us your decisions about the support solution. Or solutions. And then we can kind of see if there's other takes on it. And then we'll go on to the next example. So let's start with example number 1. Who would like to? We're going to start.
We can start.
Yeah, okay. We'll start at this end of the room. That's fine. Okay, go ahead. Example number 1.
Okay, so entering data about a new patient into a medical records database.
Mm-hmm.
Frequency happens pretty often. Complexity, low to medium. Impact, high. Patient privacy and safety constraints, time.
Well, hey, hang on. Okay, and your what did you say about impact?
Impact. Let's see. Oh, here. He said high impact, but now I'm reading this on the back.
What's the nature of the impact?
Nature of the impact.
Would be the safety to the patient.
Okay, yeah, that's
Product quality.
You have to have
Productivity.
correct information. Product quality.
well. Okay, this is a well. Okay.
Redefine product as something physical.
Product or service. Product or service, is it should say.
Product communication.
Right.
Oops. And then what was the whoops? And then how about the magnitude?
Well, it has to be correct because otherwise you have the wrong patient information in there and then they're not treated correctly. So I think it's high because it could affect the patient's health.
It could be illegal travel.
I'm running into difficulty with this thing here. It doesn't want to do. Okay, it doesn't want to do 2 lines in a cell. Never mind.
You want to just discuss it?
Yeah, that's okay. I can deal with this. I can deal with it. Okay. All right. We said safety. SQE. And
Okay, constraints, time constraints. Needing to get a certain number done quickly, get it through the system.
mm-hmm.
There could be
Sure,
legal
process.
constraints. You have to do it a certain way legally with the
Mm-hmm.
patient data.
Yep. Right. Okay. Now, do any of the rest of you have other thoughts about the task breakdown? Did you see it any differently? Okay.
I just, complexity because my husband does this.
Yep.
And I
Okay.
see it.
Okay.
I really, that complexity could be the high, not really medium. Because he has some patients who have 100 things going on, you know, and some patients who are just kids who could have a whole lot going on.
Okay.
The complexity can be really wide.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Good point. Good point. And we didn't really define what kind of data here. So we didn't, you know, if we're just talking about name, address, and phone number, that's one thing. But if it's the medical information, then yeah, that could be.
Sometimes that's really
Yes.
long.
The other issue we brought up was whether or not they were using a good data entry tool.
Right.
Because the tool had problems, so we didn't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it intuitive?
Yeah. I didn't even think that part out. Yeah, I think for that one, we'll assume that the tool is okay. Otherwise, it gets to be almost impossible. Okay, what did you come up with for your support solution or solutions?
Well, we were talking about learning, maybe simulations. We said yes.
Okay, so that would
Doing specific,
learning or simulations would come under what heading there? Where would that take place?
maybe as other. We're saying as other.
Okay, where and how would they encounter the simulations?
So, do we need to pick one of them, or we can use all of them?
Well, you can use all of them, but if you say something like simulations, you have to define where and how does the learner encounter the simulation. The fact that you have it is interesting, but what's the mechanism by which the learner actually comes in contact with it and interacts with it?
Oh, we were discussing about maybe as part of hands-on experience.
Part of what?
Hands-on experience under structure O on the job training.
Okay.
We were not very detailed at this point.
Okay.
We kind of thought everything. We said, yes,
Yeah,
they should have a
everything.
job aid, so if they forget something, they could help with the medical records. Yes, there needs some hands-on type training under structured job training. They need to do it to understand it on the actual system. Yes, some classroom training to get an overview about what they're doing and what is allowed or not allowed with the medical records. So if you have a group of 30 people entering, you get the intro to all 30 people at once, and then you do your on the job. Or so yes, some coaching to know if they're doing it quickly and the right way, and some other ideas about how to do it. Drill, if they're doing it all the time, once they start, they probably don't need drill because they're doing it all the time. And then we thought another way to learn might be through doing some practice with e-learning and simulations with some practice records that are fake so that they're not doing the real ones right away.
Okay.
Training. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Now, okay, I'll throw you. Anybody else come up with a different strategy?
Not necessarily a different
Or-
strategy, but the strategy really depends on how many people you're going to be.
Number of
Okay.
people. Yeah.
And what would that impact?
Well, if I had a lot of them that I know I'm going to train, I'm definitely going to do some e-learning simulations.
Mhm.
If I've got a handful of people, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do a lot of coaching and structured on-the-job training.
Okay.
Probably with it. You know. So it makes a difference on how many people.
Yeah.
And
Also makes a difference. For example, I got 3 people that do this.
Mhm.
One of them just left and I hired a new one. Use classroom training.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are part of that. Who's the audience questions that make a big difference in how you ultimately come up with the best performance support solution. So.
And even little things like, are they located in the same place?
Sure, exactly.
You know, you
Yep.
might have 3 people, but one's
Yep.
in, you know, Fargo and another's in
Yep.
Toledo, Ohio, and, you know.
Yep. And do they know each other? And even if they're different places, can they easily contact each other? In other words, can the new one easily ask for help?
Yeah.
Or not?
Right.
And that makes a big difference. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's take number 2 and let's start with the next table.
right, so we're conducting interviews to see who to hire. So
Mhm.
the frequency we're thinking would be relatively low.
Safe bet, yeah.
Say that, just that it probably wouldn't happen very often. The complexity could be like medium to high because, you know, you want to make sure that your questions are getting at the critical elements of information that you need to gather to make an informed decision. In terms of the impact, we're thinking like productivity, and ultimately it's kind of a spendy proposition of medium magnitude in terms of the impact, because you want to make sure, well, it's just expensive to you know, bring somebody on board and, you know, make sure that they're the best fit and best candidate for the job. The constraints we came up with were time again and just physical constraints.
Physical constraints of what kind?
Having the candidates, you know, physically come in for an interview, sometimes that's a challenge. So that's what we had for constraints, and then we came up with, in terms of structured solutions or support solutions, having a job aid, and that could be like a list of questions to ask.
Yep.
The candidate, again, trying to get at the information that you really are critical to know. Maybe there's some coaching by HR, for example, or a management group that would, you know, provide some insight in terms of what questions to ask or not ask. I shared with the gals a question that came up in an interview that I had with a school district where the principal asked me, now you're not going to get pregnant in the next 9 months anytime soon. I'm like, first of all, it's illegal to ask. I didn't say that because I was trying to be all nice and everything, but then he also, you know, because he's like, because I don't want to have to hire you and then, you know, have to hire a lifetime sub. And I'm like, listen, I'm not even married, so I'm not planning on having any children anytime soon. But, you know, unbelievable.
Reminds me of Doc Martin and the teacher who is Doc's girlfriend. She gets pregnant and the schoolmaster doesn't want to appoint her as principal because he's afraid she'll do it again.
I did get the job ultimately, you know, but I never did go back to the principal. I should have probably and said, listen, you know, don't ask future candidates that question, female candidates, because, you know, you're creating a lot of trouble, you know. This wasn't that long ago. So whatever. But anyway, and then, you know, I guess like having a periodic drill, and what I was thinking is actually having maybe a practice mock interview or something, maybe, you know, if you're new at it or something, to, you know, just plan it out.
Okay. Periodic, periodic drill. Periodic means something you do on a regular basis.
Okay, then that would be in the other category, planning, because I've also been in a situation where I've been a candidate and I've had one-on-one meetings with a team of people, but, you know, sort of one-on-one, and the next person one-on-one, next person one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And I find myself hitting the rewind play button. Mm-hmm. I'm like hitting it over and over again, basically answering the same questions with each and every person, because nobody is sort of cross-compared, like, what questions are you going to ask the candidates? Oh, well, I was going to ask that same question. So really, you know what I mean? So it's sort of like, okay, I'll just hit that rewind again. It really has to do with
That's a process design issue. That's something outside of the task analysis.
But to have a plan of, you know, okay, here's our list of questions. You ask the candidate this section. I think you know,
well, yeah. We're not really dealing with process design here, so this is, you know,
But you know what
it's
I'm
important.
saying,
Oh, yeah,
have a
yeah.
clue as
Oh, yeah.
to what
Yeah.
you're gonna ask.
Yep.
So you don't
Absolutely,
ask
absolutely.
the same question over.
Yes. Okay. Anybody come up with any other strategies, any other solutions there? Okay, let's do number 3.
Well, we had to define this one.
Okay.
Because we found it a little bit ambiguous.
Okay,
We
all right.
could have interpreted it a couple of different ways.
Sure.
So we interpreted it as switching over to a new cereal.
Mhm.
So it was a new product,
Yeah.
not just starting it for the day,
Right.
beginning of shift. So-
Okay.
So we did that little bit of.
When you say switching over to new one, you mean brand new for the first time, or?
No,
No, we
No,
can,
we-
we can just.
Okay, so
We're doing
we got
Cheerios today.
this product line, or this line can make 3 different products, and, you know, okay, yeah.
And we assumed they would do it,
That's what I was thinking.
and we assumed they would do it probably weekly or something, so somewhere, you know, so.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Pretty
We
good.
had a question mark frequency high, you know, but complexity, we had medium. For impact, we had all with $2 signs.
Mhm.
And we had time and process as the
Complexity was, what did you say, medium?
medium.
Okay, yeah. Oops. No, this, yeah, come on, doggone. Hmm. Okay,
So that category, the impact was all of them with $2 signs.
okay,
And for constraints, we had time and process. And we had a combination of solutions.
okay,
And we figured there would be some sort of a job aid for, you know, if you're setting it up for this, like the, you know, engineers that said, this is what you have to do, set this here, that there. You know, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And that there would be some structured on the job training with a coach type person advising new people to do it. What we didn't do on this one that we did on the first two was to find who our audience was, but I think it was the food production on the assumption.
okay, yeah.
So,
We had coaching also.
yeah, we had coaching.
And just, okay, coaching, how? Who would be the coach and who the coachor and who the coachee?
Well, I think the coach was maybe a more experienced person on the line, or it could have been the engineer or something,
Yeah.
or a whole shift supervisor that's got multiple lines.
Yeah.
So they could be the coach.
Yeah.
And that they were the person essentially providing some of the OG.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Having, this is one, having actually been there. The coach was a senior operator. Engineer doesn't do this. Manager doesn't do this. But once in a blue moon, we're gonna be lousy coaches. Coaches are the guys that do it all the time and do it right. And that's the other, you know, that's a senior operator. Okay. Number 4.
Yay. Can we read it?
Yep, go for it.
Okay. So the question was, or the example was, respond to a high steam pressure alarm in a gas-fired boiler.
Mhm.
So we were hoping that the frequency would be low, so this wouldn't be, because it sounds like a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Complexity, we thought medium, depending on, I mean, we don't know anything about pressure boilers as far as I know, so, or gas-fired boilers, so I put medium. It'd probably be high for me, but hopefully it's not too hard. So for the impact, we put all, because assuming that it's something that could be dangerous, it's hot, safety of personnel, it's hot, danger to equipment and alarms going off. It could impact product quality and if you had to shut everything down, turn it off, or just even take your time to turn it off, that would be a productivity issue. And I don't know if we agreed on magnitude of impact. Yeah. Okay, you put $2 signs, so there we go.
No, I didn't.
You did.
Not yet. That was, it just copied what was up above.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know, so we'll say it's really
Take my word for it, it's 3.
For constraints, we had, I think we had all 3. You know, it could take away from your time. You might have physical constraints if something is on fire or burning or whatever, and definitely would take away from your process time.
Okay. Take away from your time isn't really, in this case, time is how much time have you got before all hell breaks loose?
Yeah, you probably don't have
So you don't have much. you may not have. It kind of depends.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, we put all 3.
So you can't. For example, the time constraint is I can't send them to the library to look in the manual to find out how to do this. You know, by the time they get back, the place is lost to it. So they have to whatever resources they need them accessible right now without a whole lot of messing around so that I can act quickly. Yeah. Okay, so what would you do for support solutions?
We thought a job aid would probably be fairly low. You might be able to have it on hand for them to review as part of a training element, but you probably wouldn't have a job aid right there. Maybe, but I think no. Structured OJT, probably pretty low, since you wouldn't want that to happen very often, and you wouldn't really have time to show someone if that happened.
Okay, that's a good point.
Actually, no,
that's
I'm
a good point.
I'm looking at the wrong line. We actually put a high for job aid.
Okay.
As something, I suppose you could glance at it quickly. I think for structured OJT, we put high as kind of, was it for the simulation activity we were thinking of, or I don't know why we put high.
Well, where would what column would a simulation activity come under?
Other.
No. That's periodic drill.
Oh.
That's a prime example. I give you a simulation that you can go through this once every couple of months and get your brain, organized as to how you're going to react if it actually happens. That's periodic drill. That's exactly what it is.
Kind of like a fire drill or.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
We'd want a simulation, so not the real thing.
Yeah, unless you what the
Turn up the heat.
oh, man. Okay. And the last one, okay, as far as solutions go, there's only one. What is it? Huh?
It's the periodic drill in a simulator.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way, that is the only way that somebody's going to be prepared to deal with that when it actually happens.
We also thought that airplanes, the pilots have checklists for different things.
True,
On the
that's-
job aid.
yeah.
Sure, okay, yeah, sure.
Could be working in a simulator.
True, yes. Yeah, in fact, that would probably definitely be a part of the strategy. But ultimately, the periodic drill is essential. And why?
You want to just be able to respond automatically, viscerally, just do it.
It's in the.
There's a
hand.
okay.
You're not looking at a book.
Perishable skills. You ever heard that term? They would be skills that you developed but then you never use. What happens to them?
Forget.
Yeah, they go away. Your brain doesn't. Oh, crash! Darn! Perishable skills. If a skill is perishable but essential, and the frequency of encountering the task is very low, the only way to maintain the skill is some kind of periodic drill some way. So you're forced to do it way more often than than the real world demands. That's why pilots go to simulator training. That's why law enforcement go over to the Edina, Eden Prairie, Bloomington, and the airport, Minneapolis Airport. They have a training center over in Edina. In fact, we had a meeting there once, several years ago. And at that meeting, there's a room with a projection system. One whole wall is a screen. They've got some very exotic projection system that projects a scenario. And in this case, it was in an airplane, and I've got the gun, and the gun is a laser, so and the screen detects where you shot. And this guy gets up out of his seat and he goes and he grabs the stewardess and he pulls out a knife. Well, unfortunately, I shot the stewardess.
Whoops.
Okay, but this is stuff that the law enforcement officers, and I'm sure military does this too, goes through on a regular basis, so that they're and one of the things about the human brain is that we have this when we're faced with a sudden threat. What happens?
And drill.
We scream
There's two things happening.
and we run away.
Our limbic system takes over, which is the fight or flight stuff. And the part of our brain that does rational thinking switches off. Yeah. And so the purpose of those drills is to bump up the threshold at which that happens. So that what would be a sudden threat, completely turning most of us off, for that law enforcement is something he's seen over and over and over again. So it's not the big surprise. He can actually rationally decide how to proceed, what to do. So that's the periodic drill. That's what periodic drill. One of the purposes of periodic drills is to raise that threshold so you can keep on thinking in the case of an emergency.
At St. Paul, they actually had a sheriff's open house, and they have a whole series of rooms that are set up kind of almost like little stages where it's like a fake house
Sure.
that sort of fake people come popping out of and stuff, and then they shoot at them with some kind of pellet gun or something.
Yep.
But yeah, it's even lit up a certain way, and to cast shadows, and I mean it's part of their training.
Yep. So that yeah, and that, I mean, that's one of the purposes of this kind of a task breakdown, is to identify those cases where training will in fact accomplish something, or where a job aid would be all you need, or where without periodic drill you don't have a chance. Low frequency, high complexity, high risk. If it's that kind of thing without some kind of practice, you're not going to do it. So.
Yeah, this is like full-fledged immersion,
Yeah.
So.
Oops.
Susan, did you have a comment on it?
Well, I have a comment on the fact that the column under job aid was picked every single time.
Yeah. and I use the term job aid, you know, can mean a lot of things. So some kind of guidelines in some form, readily accessible at the time and place where the task is to be performed. So whatever that is, whether it's an electronic performance support system or a sign on the wall or, you know,
Or a menu on it.
yeah, or a thing in a pocket or whatever it is, if it fulfills that need, then it's probably a pretty good thing. Somehow, I'm gonna get back here. All right. Now, just out of curiosity, I mentioned there is a task that has been all over the news for about the past 2 weeks, where a solution was identified that addressed a problem clarity of feedback from the process. Now, does anybody know what task I'm talking about?
Is it like the credit card thing?
No.
Ebola.
Okay, what's the task?
Task is figuring out how to keep it from being passed on.
Not, well,
Putting on
but specifically, putting on or taking off
Especially off, yeah.
the protective gear. What kind of feedback is inherent in that process?
You're wrong, you get sick.
Yeah, that's the, yeah, right. What have people all over the place now realized they have to do to provide that feedback?
Have another person.
Yes, you have to have an expert watching them, put it on and take it off and say, whoops, no, got to do that. Because there's nothing inherent in that process that tells you that you're doing it right or wrong. And if you do it wrong, the risk is fairly high. Yeah, right.
There might be an app for that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure. Anyway. Now, one of the things that I wanted to add to this is, if in fact training is determined to be a prudent part of the performance support process, what are the elements of a training environment that you need to pay attention to? Of course, one is information delivery, but that's, you know, you can do that well or you can do really lousy. Now, what's well? Well, first of all, how to recognize that you're even facing the problem, what to do, why to do it the way it's being recommended. We oftentimes forget that. When and where to do it. Of course, how to do it, we usually get. What does success look like? How do you know if you're doing it right? And what do you do if you discover that it's not going the way it's supposed to go? That one gets left out a lot. I see that in instructions for, you know, even for some fairly complex and risky equipment. You know, do this, do this, do this, do that, do that, da, 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 da. But nothing about, wait a minute, what am I looking for after I do that? How do I know it's on the path? You don't know that? Okay. Another factor in the training environment, interaction with others. I mean, if these are complex, high-risk kinds of tasks, your brain by itself ain't going to do it. You got to have other people, just like we're doing here, you know, conversations and challenges and differences of opinion, all that kind of stuff in order to really master it. Practice doing the task, and performance evaluation and feedback. Some way. These become really challenging for e-learning. But it doesn't mean it can't be done, but it does. But oftentimes that becomes a real problem. And so when we're talking about tasks that really, you know, where the risk is high and the complexity is high and all that kind of stuff, yeah. So just to summarize, one of the things I would recommend is that if you're writing instructions or writing a training module or something for a task, try as best you can to actually do it yourself. Follow your own instructions and find out if it actually makes sense. And remember, SMEs will always or will virtually never be able to see the task through the eyes of the novice. So asking the SME for evaluation of the communication to the novice. If a job aid will do it, just do it. Now it's got to fit the environment. If if it's installation of a piece of equipment up, 20 feet up in the air outdoors on a telephone pole in a bucket truck, a job aid on a laptop, probably isn't going to work. It's got to fit the environment. It's got to be accessible when needed, and you should test it to make sure it actually works with somebody who would actually do that task. If training is unavoidable, I would recommend that you'd start with the job aids and use the job aids as the kind of the information, kernel for the training, and then practice using the job aids and provide feedback and evaluation. And don't expect people to master it right off the bat if it's a complex task, because they're going to, and there's going to need follow-up. You're going to need follow-up to make sure that once they get in the work environment, they actually keep on climbing the learning curve, ultimately get to the point where they're competent. And again, recognize and provide support for perishable skills, which oftentimes means some kind of drill or practice opportunity on a regular basis in order to keep your brain capable of dealing with the task when it actually hits you. And that's it. Any questions, comments, whatever?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.